Hey guys, I'm Jim Bullock, lead director of the Heights Church, and tonight we're gonna have hopefully our last online youth group. The plan is as of right now, which can always change, but the plan right now is to have youth group back in person next Sunday, December 6th, back at the Heights Church. But be on the lookout for that as the week goes on. Um, I hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving. I know I did. It was great to spend time with family, eat a lot of food, and although not all of my extended family that normally comes could make it, we were still able to have a Zoom call with all of them and enjoy spending time with those who were there and just eating way too much food. Um, so I hope you guys had a similar uh, Thanksgiving, or maybe yours was different. And I hope you had a great one. And I hope you were reminded of the little things you were thankful for, as we talked about last week. Tonight, we're going to talk about respect. Have you ever had a hard time respecting someone in authority over you? Maybe it was a teacher, a coach, um, a parent, anyone who's in charge of you. Um, Maybe you're in Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts and you had a leader who you just didn't respect. Um, I can remember a teacher when I was in high school that I felt didn't earn my respect. Um, on one of my first days of class, when she realized who I was, she put me in the bad person's chair because of the reputation my brother had earned in her class. Um, and so it was hard to respect her when, from day one, she put me in the category of a bad kid just because my brother was a little disruptive in her class. And he was younger than me, and he was in like middle school, and I was in high school. So she just thought that I was going to act like him. So everyone else stood with their friends except for me because she had a prior bias against me because of my last name and who my brother was. Um, so I just remember she didn't earn my respect from day one. Um, and I felt like she didn't do a good job teaching and often acted up in her class. And that all started in 10th grade. I had her all the way to the time I was a senior in high school. I remember one day towards the end of my senior year, I finally had enough. And I decided to tell her off, and tell her how terrible of a teacher she was right before my finals. Now, I was able to pass my finals, but she didn't hold it against me too much, I guess. But looking back on it, I feel terrible for the way I treated her. She was my teacher, and I treated her terribly. Um, could she have done a better job of respecting me? Of course. But I should have taken a better course of action with that. Maybe talk to a principal or something about it other than trying to take it into my own hands and defend myself by just being rude and terrible to her for 3 years. And fulfilling her bias of me being a bad kid. Um, and yeah, I ended up going to the principal's office and feeling pretty terrible about it. Uh, and didn't get in too much trouble because it was towards the end of the year, but still was disciplined for my actions. Um, so how could I respect someone who's always acted wrongly? Do I even need to? We're going to talk about David and King Saul. Before we read a passage from 1 Samuel, let us give a little bit of backstory. God never intended for Israel to have a king, but after they begged, he relented, begged for one. He relented. King Saul was chosen by God to lead his people things did not end up going so well. Eventually, God appointed Saul's replacement, a shepherd boy named David. It would be many years before David became king. In that time, Saul went from David's caregiver to trying to murder him. Um, David was forced to live a rough life and run from his king. One day, Saul entered a cave, not knowing that David was hiding in the dark. David finally has a chance to kill Saul and take his place as the king of Israel. His friends urged him to do so, or to go through with it and to kill him. David does not. Let's read why he spares Saul's life in 1 Samuel 24, 8-10. David came out and shouted after him, "My Lord, my King." And Saul looked around. David bowed low before him and shouted to Saul, "Why do you listen to the people who say I'm trying to harm you? This very day you can see with your own eyes it isn't true. For the Lord placed you at my mercy back there in the cave. Some of my men told me to kill you, but I spared you. For I said, I will never harm the king. He is the Lord's appointed one." To this point, Saul had definitely not earned David's respect. He had lied to him and even tried to murder him. Basically, Saul's chief abundance in life seemed to be making David miserable. Even though David hadn't done anything wrong to him, but look how David responds to Saul. He bows before him, showing respect to a king, the respect a king deserves. Second, he explains that he will never harm the king because he is the Lord's appointed one. As difficult as it has been for David, he realized that by showing Saul the respect a king deserves, he was eventually shown God's respect. Saul was God's chosen king. David realized that, and it was God's choice when and how to remove him. When I think back on how I treated that teacher, I realize what my principal was trying to teach me. There are many times in life when those in authority over me will make mistakes. Does that mean I have to not respect them? No, God is in control. He has the power to place people in authority, and he also has the power to remove them. By showing resistance and respect, I'm honoring God and trusting his power. It is no wonder that David is so incredibly close to God. He understood that respect is not earned but required. Following Jesus requires a trembling amount of humility. More than any, requires faith that God will always support and defend us in his timing. So that is the end of our lesson on respect. So remember that if there's someone who you feel like hasn't earned your respect, or is treating you unfairly, remember that God placed that person in authority for a reason, and that we're called to respect, and by respecting them, we're respecting God. So keep that in mind as you go through this week. Maybe you are thinking about that teacher or someone in authority who you don't respect. Remember that God placed them there, and that you are to respect them, and by respecting them, you are respecting him. I can't wait to see you guys next week. Hope you have a great week. And yeah, see you guys next week. Bye.